Since the creation of the game, concepts and details have graced the artwork of the cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! However, what many people don't know is that the cards tell a story on various characters, their plights, forms, rises, and falls. And a fall from grace exemplifies this story of the Condemned Maiden. Let's take a look at this story as we explore the Tales from the Shadow Realm. Somewhere within the skies lie a domain ruled by a godly solemn figure who issues judgment on those below him. This figure is accompanied by various maidens who also dwell in this land within the clouds. However, there is one maiden in particular whose fate takes a dark turn for the worst due to her apparent fascination with various forbidden items within this place. While the domains shown within the art of these items assuredly show an interpretation on Christianity's version of heaven, you can see Greek influences as well, perhaps being a combination of heaven and Olympus, realm of the gods. Whether if this place is truly sanctuary in the sky is currently unknown. 3 items in particular that the maiden begins her fascination with are quick play spell cards: Forbidden Chalice, Forbidden Lance, and the Forbidden Dress. These forbidden cards, while only forbidden in name, provide effects to monsters on the field while also increasing or decreasing their attack points, depending on the forbidden item used. What is fascinating about these cards is that each is based on a different holy relic tied to the religion of Christianity. The first 3 directly reference items closely associated with the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. The Forbidden Chalice is based on the Holy Grail, the cup which Jesus of Nazareth shared wine with his 12 apostles during the Last Supper before his crucifixion, said to bring happiness and longevity to those who would drink from it, thus going in line with the card granting strength to a monster. The Forbidden Lance is based on the Spear of Longinus, the spear the Roman soldier known as Longinus used to pierce the side of Jesus during his crucifixion. While its supposed abilities have been disputed, a common belief is that the spear will avert its owner from any harm that would go their way, thus going in line with the card granting the monster immunity from other spells and traps. The Forbidden Dress is based on the seamless robe of Jesus Christ, the attire Jesus wore shortly before he was crucified that the Roman soldiers drew lots over to claim ownership of the robe. Said to grant its wearer immortality, going in line with the card allowing the monster to not be targeted or destroyed by other card effects. In each of these artworks, you can see the same maiden using, touching, or inspecting these aptly named forbidden relics with aloof intrigue, but with the nature, naming, and origin of these relics apparent, what comes after is just as much. The godly solemn figure of authority soon finds out of this maiden's irresponsibility with these relics and scolds her as seen in the card Solemn Scolding, while being watched by other maidens. You can see here from her brown hair and her signature hair clip that this is indeed the maiden who appears in the artwork of the forbidden cards. You would think that after this scolding, the maiden will learn her lesson and never go near the forbidden relics ever again. However, there is indeed a 4th relic that her curiosity could not ignore. After the scolding, the maiden seeks the 4th relic. This item in particular is not shown to be used out in the open with a sky of clouds seen in the background. Rather, within a building that gives the idea that this might be the most sacred of the forbidden items, and that item is the Forbidden Scripture. Like the other forbidden relics, the Forbidden Scripture is based on an item closely tied to the religion of Christianity. While the other items were closely associated to Jesus Christ, the Forbidden Scripture is most assuredly based on the complete, unaltered, and compiled text of the Holy Bible. While the effect of the card seems to be out of place when compared to the other forbidden cards, it does go in line with a well-known proverb from the Holy Bible, in which when approaching Christianity, you should come just as you are, which goes in line with the Forbidden Scriptures negating all other card effects and reverting the monster's attack and defense to their original values during the damage calculation of a battle. In the artwork of this card, the maiden seems to be more tense than when she was handling the Forbidden Chalice, Lance, and Dress. Also more secretive. This definitely tells us that she now knows what she is doing is forbidden, which correlates with this taking place after the Solemn Scolding, and that she must try and be careful in sating her forbidden pleasure. But if you would notice in the bottom left corner of the card's artwork, the godly solemn figure of authority has caught her red-handed once again, meddling with these forbidden items, and this was the straw that broke the camel's back. What would ensue would be judgment, while not exactly solemn judgment, but a solemn strike to the maiden that defied the figure of authority and ignored his solemn scolding. This solemn strike would turn the maiden into a form unlike we've seen her before in previous cards. As you can see, the transformation has already begun. This maiden would get her own card as a monster, henceforth known as the Condemned Maiden. When looking at the Condemned Maiden, you can tell right away that this is indeed the maiden from the Forbidden cards and Solemn Strike, as you can see her hair matches and that her unfinished wings have begun to grow during the Solemn Strike. This act and naming convention of condemnation goes further in line with Christianity, as this is a prime example of damnation of fallen angels. While the most famous account would indeed be Lucifer, who goes on to become Satan and the ruler of hell, there are multiple accounts of angels fallen from grace due to rebelling against God, tempting humans to commit sin, or even committing sin themselves, which in the case of the Condemned Maiden, she defied the solemn figure and committed sin in touching the forbidden relics. Despite being struck down and cast out, the Condemned Maiden's effect suggests that her fascination with the forbidden items have yet to cease, as this card allows you to use a quick play spell card from your hand during your opponent's turn, in which all of the forbidden cards are quick play spell cards, building to that association. While originally, it seemed the story would end here, it would not, as the Condemned Maiden would get a revised and older counterpart known as the Condemned Witch. While her attire and attack and defense values remain the same, she is given a new effect, and you can see that her skin and hair have turned gray and her eyes have gone to red. It seems that the maiden decided to become proficient at magic and give herself over to black magic in particular, something of an evil sort. And even at this point, she continues to be enthralled with the sacred forbidden relics, as shown by her effect that allows players to add a forbidden quick play spell card to their hand upon successfully normal summoning this monster. The Condemned Witch's proficiency in black magic will be made apparent in what would follow in the card Witch's Strike. In this trap card, it shows the Condemned Witch finally using what she has learned in magic in an attempt to seek revenge against the solemn figure, the one who condemned her for the use of the forbidden relics. This act directly mirrors that of Solemn Strike while also deriving from its naming convention. The effect also relates itself to that of Solemn Strike and a handful of the Solemn cards. If your opponent negates the summon of a monster or the activation of a card or effect, which is a common makeup for the Solemn series of cards, including Solemn Strike, you destroy all the cards your opponent controls, as well as all of the cards in their hand. With the powerful nature of this card itself, the revenge the Condemned Witch is enacting isn't exactly against the solemn figure himself, but to everything he loves and has built, as the figure has yet to be represented by a monster card, so the Witch's Strike will be in retaliation to the figure's appearance on the field, destroying everything else because of him. While the solemn figure's fate after this encounter is unknown, we do know what is to become of the Condemned Witch, as she will get another, older counterpart in the form of the Condemned Dark Lord. In this card, you can see that the Condemned Witch is now older, her wings are full, and her horns are much larger. She sports a triumphant smile on her face, and her clothes are now updated and untethered. She now sports a devilish halo, and due to her name, she is truly part of the Dark Lord family of cards, in which in other regions are known as the Fallen Angels. With her appearance and full transformation into a Dark Lord, it seems who was once the Condemned Maiden was somewhat successful in her revenge in a truly unknown capacity. Perhaps we will learn more with the release of a new card, but that will be a tale for next time. Until that time, my friends, stay out of the shadows, for I will bring you another tale from the Shadow Realm.